In our last video, we showed you how to pivot from a threat intel report to an email investigation. In this case, we're going to show you how to go from a threat intel report to pushing out multiple countermeasures across different technologies in your enterprise. So in the case of a threat intel analyst, they might have been handled a report and said, hey, go read this report and go triage it. In this case, it's a report from our friends at PwC. And like any threat intel report, you can see there's a whole bunch of unstructured text, and then there's domains and hashes and URLs. And the analyst has to decide what they want to push out, what countermeasures they want to push out in their environment. So we could do that, or you could just ask CARA to do it for you. So CARA will extract the indicators that are well formed, and then we're going to help you go one step further in your investigation to potentially find other indicators that weren't listed in that report. So here we've asked CARA to say, go and extract those artifacts from that report I just read, and we'll extract them in a well-formed table that gives you the ability to one-click action these in your environment. So here you have CVEs and domains and IPs and hashes. So you could just say, hey, go and block this domain for me, right? Or go and simulate this domain for me in my environment. But what about the domains that maybe weren't listed in their report for one reason or another? So here we have the IPs extracted, and you could get a gut feel about the IP address just by running it across all the engines we have enabled. So Alien Vault, HoneyDB, and VirusTotal, and OpSWAT, and Silent Push. So you're going to get an idea about the indicator before you do anything. But you might want to say, okay, now I know this IP is interesting. Let me see what other domains are sitting on that IP address. So we leverage our friends at Silent Push and other partners for passive DNS data. So here you can see we've just pulled up all the other domains that are sitting on that IP. They all look a little bit sketchy, but I might not know exactly whether it's good or bad, so I could run another one of those enrichments. But I also might want to get a little bit more context around the IP, because passive DNS is great, but anybody could point their domain at any IP address, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's controlled. So what I also like to do is pull out the SSL certificates. So these are the SSL certs sitting on the IP address, and you'll start to see some overlaps, and you can gain a little bit more confidence that, yes, the domains we're seeing in passive DNS actually exist on that server, because we're also seeing the SSL cert. So now I know about a particular domain or IP or a bunch of these. Obviously, you can do multi-selects of things you want to block, but just really simply, I'll just say, okay, block this domain that I thought was interesting. So CARA is going to understand what indicator can push out on what tool. So a domain or IP or hash, or what type of hash can go with what tool. So in this case, for this domain, I can push it out on 3 Microsoft tools, Sentinel, Defender, and 365. In this case, I just want to push out a block rule or an alert rule, depending how I have it configured on these 2 tools. I can specify the confidence, and I can also retire the rule that I push out. So let's say I want to push out a rule, and then after 7 weeks, I want to take that rule and delete it from all those technologies. It's really simple to do right in the product, and I'll show you exactly how that works. So here you can see I've scheduled the job for you, and now we can pull up the job where we're blocking this domain or IP or hash. So we had that one artifact we were blocking it on 2 different tools, and here you can see it's starting to run. So it's blocked that rule on Microsoft Sentinel, and then it's scheduled the job to retire it, and it's still running here on the block on the other tool. And it looks like it's done. So now we've pushed out the block rule on Sentinel and 365. Here's the indicator that we're blocking. We say it's malicious. Here's the score. So now if we were to look at those tools, you can see what that block looks like. And remember, this is going to automatically retire. The rule is going to automatically delete itself from the products in 7 weeks. So we can pull up this is 365 that we're looking at here. So you can notice that we've created this rule here, and we've added this malicious domain to this rule. So now if an email comes in with that domain, it's going to block it. And you can also see in Sentinel, and we'll just refresh this here in Sentinel, that domain that we pushed out is right here. So now, however you have these configured, whether they're automatic hunts or blocks or alerts, it's going to push out to all your technology and then optionally retire it. So here you can see I've gone from threat intel report. I've done a simple pivot with our friends at Silent Push on passive DNS, on certificate tracking, and then I'm pushing out the subsequent domains all within 2 minutes or so. Thank you very much.